Hi earthy people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gerard, Witch of Earth's Curious Goods, and today I decided that I'm going to show you how to do a hex jar. In some cultures and some spiritualists and witches, they'll call it a sour jar. And in my opinion, what I'm about to show you, it's not quite a sour jar. Sour jar was created to, of course, sour someone's life. This, what I'm about to show you, is a hex jar. So we are hexing someone. Now, just to have a disclaimer, this spell that I'm about to show you should be a last means necessary. I'm not a big fan of hexes, or curses for that matter, but if some of you have been on my channel for a while, you know how I feel about it. So I say if you're going to learn about hexes and hex jars and curses, why not learn it from me, from this channel, from this community? So I say, here you go. So if this sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. And without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do a hex jar, but just so that we know, if you want to learn more of a layered effect, or maybe you want it to be a little bit more potent, I'll show you a little bit more at the end of the video. But for those of you that want it simple, still get the job done, maybe you just don't have access to a lot of materials, maybe funds are pretty low, maybe you just want it to be a little bit easier, I'm going to show you that part first. So we're going to need some materials, of course. So I'm going to bring you guys in closer so you can kind of see the table. So it's hand puppet time. Okay, so here are some materials we're going to need. I showed you, I brought two types of jars. So this one right here is just a old bay leaf jar that I had and I just kept. So I just wanted to show you this because it doesn't have to be a regular size jar or large jar. It could be something as small as this. This one comes in handy too. Maybe you're still in the broom closet or you don't want it to be very noticeable. Or maybe burying it, you don't want it to have to, bury it in a very large hole. You want to bury it easily and less conspicuous. You might want to choose a smaller jar. Same effect. But here is a regular dip jar, one of those nacho cheese jars. I just kind of cleaned off the label, but both would come in handy. I personally would probably use the smaller one first, and then this is kind of my last resort. Or if I had a lot more materials to have to put in there, this one is going to come in handy. For those of you that want to see the advanced version of it, of course you can skip ahead and then see what you want to add and maybe return to this part, but I would use this larger jar for this hex jar in particular, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is I would recommend cleansing the jar. Now I'm not going to be hexing anyone, so I'm not going to be actually putting the stuff into here, but I'm going to just show you just for theatrical purposes and just so that you guys can see what to do. I kind of put all the materials together, but I'm going to just take my Palo Santo and I would highly recommend to cleanse your materials. I don't care if you were the one that bought this jar and you are the only one that used it, you're still going to want to cleanse the jar, okay? And the reason why is because you want it to be clear. When it comes to hexing, you want it to be as clear as possible to your target. You want to make sure that your intentions, your energy, everything that you're putting into this hex jar is clear and free of any obstructions or interferences. So that's why I highly recommend to cleanse your materials, whether it's from smoke cleansing, which is what I'm going to do, or you can do sound cleansing, crystal cleansing. Okay, so all I'm doing is cleansing the jar now. Just take that out, I kind of put it in there and I just smoke cleansing. Cleansing all of this. And I'm just using Palo Santo. Of course, you can use sage, you can use cedar, pine, lavender, whatever resonates with you or what you use to cleanse items with. But once again, I highly recommend to cleanse all items regardless if you were the only one that handled it, regardless if you know that you've cleaned it with soap and water, you want to do a spiritual cleanse on your items, okay? Especially when it comes to baneful work. Magic in general, but especially for baneful work. Hexing, cursing, all that good stuff. Okay? Next thing we're going to need is some vinegar. I'm using just regular standard, just vinegar. Vinegar is a very souring agent. If you ever had to smell vinegar, it's very put off. You don't want it in your eyes. You don't want it staying on your skin. It's very acidic, so that's why we're using vinegar. I have some chili peppers. Chili is really good. It's kind of hot, passion, fire, kind of just puts that intent in there, kind of burns up anything. You're going to also just want some chili powder. Paprika, you can use hot chilies. You're going to need a black candle. You can use a chime candle. Chime candles are really handy. They're not very big. They don't burn for long periods of time. It's really simple. I am a big fan of votive candles as well. They're very small. They don't burn for a very long time as well. So very, again, conspicuous, ease of use, right? And that's it. That's all the materials you're going to need to do the baneful work. Oh, I'm sorry. And the last thing is ground pepper. Okay? Sorry, I totally forgot about that. Ground pepper, you can find these items that I'm showing you, you can kind of find in the kitchen in a standard cupboard and refrigerator. And of course, you can edit some of these down, but I would highly recommend to at least use the pepper, the vinegar, the candle, and the jar. If anything you had to change up, I would at least stick to those basics to do the hex jar, okay? Purpose of this hex jar is, of course, to hex someone. It is to draw misfortune to the person or target, okay? So if you are using a hex jar, it is the last resort. And the reason why hex jars for me, a lot of spiritualists and witches will use hex and curse as synonymous with one another. So a hex is a curse and a curse is a hex. In my opinion, it is not the same, okay? For a hex, I find you're channeling energy to the target. For a curse, you are literally making the target the magnet. Anything bad, anything that could go wrong is just automatically attracted to that person. I feel like a curse is also harder to break, can go through generations. It can go from father to son, mother to daughter, that kind of feel. You can curse a whole family and then some, and repercussions can also lead to death in some curses. I've seen some pretty gnarly stuff. Hexing, in my opinion, like I said, hexing is not as bad as a curse. I find that hexes are a little bit easier to break. It's still just as difficult. It's not something that I would take lightly, but for hexing, it's more misfortune. For me in particular, in my opinion, and what I have found, hexing is just misfortune, bad. You are literally channeling that bad juju to them, that bad energy toward them, okay? So that's what we're doing with this. So for demonstration purposes, just imagine that this is a picture of someone. If not, you are just going to write their first and last name. If the more information you have about them, you're going to put that on there, just in case you can't get a hold of a picture. A picture would do better, obviously, if you can get your hands on also anything that's attached to your target, like hair, fingernails, all of that good stuff. The more things that you can tag lock or attach to that person, the likeness of them, the better that your hex jar is going to go, okay? So with that, you would just place that into your jar. If I had my way also, I'm not going to fill this up, but you would want to also fill this up with water. And the reason why water is very fluid. The element of water is also, it conducts energy very well. It causes change. So you definitely want to use the water in this hex jar. This hex jar in particular that I'm showing you is utilizing the 4 elements. So that's why you must have water in that. That cannot be omitted, okay? Then you would just add your vinegar, okay? Obviously, I'm not going to put vinegar in here, but you would add your vinegar, add your pepper, okay? Pepper it's just like almost like hot pepper. It is made to banish. It is made to cause misfortune. It causes bad luck. So we're going to want to use black pepper. Hot chili peppers. These peppers in general are kind of rotting, so then I would put them in there. And then you would add your chili, okay? And then you're just going to seal it up, okay? Boom. Now with this, You've got water, you've got your vinegar in here, you got all the materials that I have just went over. You're going to place your black candle onto the lid. You're going to light it. And you're just going to say the spell over and over as you're envisioning your target, okay? You're visualizing them, you're feeling everything about this target. Thrice around the circle's bound, up from the earth ill luck be found. By breath of air and fire's light, water binds him out of sight. Then you would say their name 3 times. John Doe, John Doe, John Doe. So here's the tricky part. You're like, oh, George, you just lit the candle. You're going to blow out the candle. What? You're not going to let it stay lit? Not yet. You're going to blow out the candle, okay? That is a form of letting air and fire combine, the breath of life, your breath combined with fire. So you're going to blow it out. Okay? Saw the smoke. You're going to tap on the top. So you're going to move the candle. You're going to tap 4 times. You're going to give it foundation. 4 is foundational, the 4 elements, the 4 directions. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Replace the candle where you tapped, exactly where you tapped, and then you're going to relight the candle. Right, and that's it. So you would just let it burn all the way down. Once the candle is already burnt all over, obviously you're going to want to put this on a heat-proof safe dish, somewhere safe. You're going to want to watch this burn all the way down. You're not going to want to go to the grocery store, leave it unattended because the wax is going to go all over the place. You definitely don't want a fire in the home, okay? Now, for those of you that have gotten this far through the video, I'm going to show you how to up this hex jar now, okay? So everything is going to be exactly the same, almost, except for on the candle, you're going to inscribe the first and last name of the person. You would want to dress your candle. So if you have war water, if you have hexing oil, if you have graveyard dust, you're going to want to dress the candle. If you don't know how to dress a candle, I have a video on that. So I would highly recommend to watch that. If not, there's many sources on how to dress a candle, but you're going to want to dress your candle with those materials, okay? So now that the candle has been upped, we're going to want to up our actual jar now, okay? So as far as the wording is still going to be the same, but we're going to want to add more materials to your hex jar because we're going to want to up it. Okay, so for instance, I have fermenting chilies in here. Okay, this is really gross. It's gooey, it's gross, it's decaying. You're going to want to add that to your jar. I would recommend if you have calamus root on hand, I would add calamus to your actual jar. Calamus is very controlling. It adds force to the spell, okay? If you have coffee, I would highly recommend to add coffee. Coffee speeds this hex up. It gives it that extra layer, that So add coffee to the actual hex jar. Of course, then if you have black salt, which is black salt, you want to add that to your hex jar, okay? Black salt is very hexing, very cursing. It can also be very banishing as well. For me, I also have banishing powder, for instance. I would put that in my hex jar, okay? Because you want to banish their luck, banish money, banish anything that comes into their life, okay? Then we're going to seal all of that up. Of course, you're going to want to add anything that resonates with you. In the past, a lot of people have added urine, menstrual blood. I would recommend adding like mold, or if you have like bread that's decaying, that's no good, instead of throwing it out, I would save it for your hex jar. If there's any spoiling of food, you will want to add that to the hex jar. So anything that's being taken away, okay? Then once all that's inside the jar, you're going to just repeat everything that I've shown you previously to just the other materials, okay? Now, here's the key. When you are doing this hex jar, you're going to want to do it in a proper phase of the moon. Now, for me, what I have found is in the waning phase or the new moon phase, it works wonders. It adds a very baneful energy to this hex jar. You are definitely not going to want to keep this hex jar in your home for longer than you have to, okay? I repeat, You don't want to have this hex jar in your home longer than you have to. So once that candle's burned down, you're going to want to remove this hex jar as soon as possible. Go bury it somewhere. Some people will just throw it into the trash and make sure that that trash is going away from you, going into like the city dump or something of that nature. Of course, this is not very ethical for the environment, so I highly recommend to balance your work out by, doing something in the garden, giving something to nature, feeding the animals, and then some. Go plant some plants out in the forest, all that good stuff. Take care of a tree. You're going to want to, do something for the earth and the environment, because of course you're adding pollution to it by doing this jar. Also, for me, I'm very intentional when I'm about to do baneful work. Here is a little secret extra hint. You're going to want to be intentional with what you're wearing. For me, I wear all black. I have black makeup. I try to do everything that is very black, and not because it's baneful, but black, for those of you that have been in the craft for a very long time, is very absorbing, is very protecting as well. It can hide things as well. It obscures. So that's why I wear black. I'm very intentional with what I'm surrounding myself with. I also will take like my perfume oils that are protecting, and I'll make protecting symbols onto my body before I actually do baneful work, because you don't want any of this attaching to yourself. This is a very potent hex jar, okay? So like I said, just make sure that you do everything proper, you go through the precautions, you've done the mundane before you actually attempt this hex jar, okay? You've done your protections and all that good stuff. Well, I hope you found today's video informative. I hope that you aren't having to use this method, this hex jar. If you do, then do it responsibly. It must be of great importance for you to have to do a hex jar, and hopefully you've done everything ethically in the mundane before you resorted to doing this hex jar. So as always, love yourself and others, stay earthy, stay magical. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.